Chapter 1059. Little Uncle was naturally referring to the little wolf cub hanging on Qishuan's body. Gu Mengmeng took a closer look and saw that the hind leg in Qishuan's arms was injured. Although it was not serious and it was just a scratch, but that was their damn little wolf cub. Without another word, Gu Mengmeng rolled up her sleeves and charged into the battlefield. She stepped on the second-level orc who was fighting with Kanwu. The orc who was being stepped on was stunned. When he looked up to see Gu Mengmeng, he was clearly stunned and could not say a word. Kanwu was also taken aback. Then, he immediately stood beside Gu Mengmeng timidly. "Mother," Gu Mengmeng pointed at Kanwu's nose. "Scram to one side. I will settle the score with you later." "All right." Ever since Kanwu saw Gu Mengmeng teach Cole a lesson, he did not dare to talk back to her. Crestfallen, he ran to Qishuan's side and whispered, "Second brother, why didn't you warn me?" Qi Xian was also very innocent. "I was thinking that if you could not defeat them, I would go up." Who knew that mother would suddenly charge forward? Great! Great messenger! The orc who was being stepped on by Gu Mengmeng finally reacted. He stammered, "Why did you hit me?" Gu Mengmeng flexed her wrists. "You hit my sons, so I will hit you. If you are not happy, call your mother over and let her hit me." With that, Gu Mengmeng pinched the male's thigh hard. He howled in pain. Gu Mengmeng looked at the purple bean on the ground. "I heard that you took care of my children. This is a gift in return." As he spoke, he slapped the level 2 orc again, accurately knocking out one of his back teeth. Then, he said, "Next time I hear you gossip, I'll pull your tongue out. Do you hear me?" The male covered his face and nodded. Then, he asked pitifully, "What do you mean by gossip?" Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes. She retracted her foot and turned to walk away. She hooked one arm around Kanwu's neck and used her index finger to flick Kanwu and Qishuan's heads. "Didn't I tell the two of you that when fighting a tiger, blood brothers will fight together? The opponent is a level 2 beast, why don't the two of you attack together? What if I suffer losses?" "I'm being lectured." The two brothers lowered their heads and obediently admitted their mistakes. "Mom, we know we were wrong." Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and pulled Kanwu out from her arms, throwing him to the side. "This kind of challenge is always one-on-one. It's against the rules for two brothers to fight against one." Gu Mengmeng exploded. "What do you mean by not following the rules? I am in charge of Zacharias now. I am the rule. My rule is not to let my son suffer any losses." Elvis chuckled. "Then why did you show mercy just now and not kill him directly?" Gu Mengmeng smacked her lips and said, "I'm not a homicidal maniac who would want someone's life just because of a little conflict between kids." Elvis rubbed Gu Mengmeng's head and kissed it, saying dotingly, "Tough mouth but soft heart." Burke knew that Gu Mengmeng had arrived and hurried out to welcome her. However, he stopped 10 steps away and looked at her radiant smiling face under the sunlight, as well as her happy partners, one in black and one in white, beside her. Even the snake beast, which was emitting a sinister aura, felt warm because of her presence. As for him. Chapter 1060. Mimicking solder, Burke also opened up a meeting room in Zacharias. There was no room made of stone, so he could only dig a spacious cave. He found a huge rock and dug out a stone chair with his claws. Then, he covered it with a tiger skin. How should she put it? It looked like an imitation of Solder's meeting room. Although it was not satisfactory, Gu Mengmeng was not picky. She turned around and sat on the chair. Looking at Burke, she asked, "The people here don't look easy to get along with. Can you handle it?" Burke nodded and smiled. "With Kanwu and Qishuan's help, it won't be a big problem." Gu Mengmeng nodded and didn't say anything else. She always felt a little awkward when facing Burke. It was the kind of feeling where you knew he liked you, but he was trying his best to hold it in. You didn't even have the chance to reject him, and could only act dumb and not understand. Sigh. It was tiring to put on an act, but it was also tiring to be forced to cooperate. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng didn't say anything, Burke was clearly a little uneasy. He pretended to cough to suppress his palpitations. Then, with a flickering gaze, he said, "The kid who fought with Kanwa today was Leonard's younger brother, Victor." Gu Mengmeng chuckled and interrupted Burke. "Why? Are you afraid that I will hold a grudge against you?" Burke hesitated for a moment before nodding. "I promised after entering the tribe that I would do my best to protect them, so," Gu Mengmeng waved her hands. "Don't worry, I have no intention of pursuing the matter. After all, he hit our little cub, and I have already hit him back. He scolded our child, and I knocked out one of his teeth. An eye for an eye, and we are even now." Borg nodded and said, "Then, are you going to see Natalie?" Gu Mengmeng nodded. Then, she stood up. "Just let these two rascals accompany me. You can go ahead with your work." Burke pursed his lips, then nodded in response. Kanwa led Gu Mengmeng and the rest towards Natalie's house, while Qi Xian stayed behind. Only after Gu Mengmeng and the rest were far away did he nudge Burke with his elbow. "Before my mother came, you have been longing for her every day. Now that she's here, why aren't you even looking at her?" Borg smiled bitterly and said, "I'm afraid of seeing her smile at me. I can't have her, but I can't forget her." Qi Xian smiled and shook his head. He patted Burke's shoulder and chased after Gu Mengmeng. Natalie's cave was located at the edge of the area. She claimed that it was more peaceful and undisturbed, but Gu Mengmeng knew that it was most likely because the old tribesmen of Zacharias were unhappy with Peter's status as a stray beast, so they were ostracized. Gu Mengmeng offered to fetch Natalie back to Saint Nazaire with her, but Natalie rejected. She said that she liked her current life. She could be with the person she loved, and could also help Elvis take care of Kanwo and Qi Xian. This made her feel very satisfied. As for what others thought, she didn't really care. Gu Mengmeng admired Natalie's open-mindedness. Anyway, if it were her, she would definitely not be able to stand being pointed at like this every day. After visiting Natalie, Gu Mengmeng didn't intend to stay for long. She wanted to head back to Saint Nazaire. Chapter 1061. Kanwo and Qi Xian came to send Gu Mengmeng off, but before they reached the separation zone, a tiger leaped out. If it was before she transmigrated, Gu Mengmeng would probably feel afraid, but now, you are. Gu Mengmeng looked at the tiger blocking her way and asked. The tiger shook its fur and transformed into a human. It was Victor, who had fought with Kanwa that day, the younger brother of Leonard's second-level beast. Gu Mengmeng raised her eyebrows and smiled mischievously. "Oh, you know I am leaving, so you are here to take revenge." "No." Victor raised his head like a bandit. With one hand on his waist and the other pointing at Gu Mengmeng, he said, "I want to mate with you." Pfft. Gu Mengmeng choked on her saliva. She laughed and said, "Child, did I beat you silly?" Victor's face was extremely red, but he still maintained his bandit demeanor. He pointed at Gu Mengmeng and said, "I am already an adult, and a second-level beast. I am not a child." Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. Looking at Victor's face that looked as young as Kanwa's, she did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Little friend, are you even 3 years old?" Victor snorted proudly and said, 3 years old. "Ha, female, are you looking down on me? Let me tell you, I am already 5 years old." Pfft. Ha 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 ha. Burp. Gu Mengmeng's face turned red from his cuteness. She patted Elvis's shoulder and laughed so hard in his arms that she could not stand up straight. So, she was being teased. And he was being teased by a 5-year-old kid. "You like me that much? You are actually so happy to hear that I want to mate with you, TSK, what a useless female. Victor said those words of disdain with an air of arrogance. But his little eyes kept glancing at Gu Mengmeng. Clearing his throat, he said, no wonder, your partners are all so old. It is normal for them to like a young, strong and charming male like me. There is no time like the present. Let's mate today, then I will leave with you. Elvis and Lee's faces had already turned as black as the bottom of a pot. Within a radius of 500 miles, one could clearly feel the low pressure. Yet, Victor did not know whether to say that a newborn calf was not afraid of a tiger or to be more direct, that he was a little slow and had no sense of danger at all. He even raised his little chin and said, your home or my home. As for mating, you probably won't be able to leave today. Let's change the date to tomorrow. Gu Mengmeng really did not want to laugh. She really wanted to treat this sudden confession seriously, but she could not control herself. Victor was completely immersed in his own imagination because of Gu Mengmeng's incessant laughter. He cleared his throat and said in a domineering manner, why aren't you coming over? You only know how to laugh. Humph, I'll make you cry later. Gu Mengmeng laughed until her stomach hurt. She turned around and hugged Elvis's neck, laughing like a mantis shrimp. Elvis stood at the same spot with a black face. Leah, on the other hand, smiled lightly and elegantly. His lips curved like a crescent moon that could stir up people's hearts. His eyes sparkled with a smile. He took a step forward and said, Victor, right? If you want to mate with a female, the first thing you have to do is to issue a challenge to her partner. Do you want to choose me, or him? Chapter 1062. The corners of Lee's lips were still hooked up and the smile on his face was even more radiant and gentle. Those who knew him well knew that this meant that he was even angrier. Turning his head, he placed his index finger on his lips and looked at Gu Mengmeng seductively. Mengmeng, can he mate with you without a challenge? Gu Mengmeng was still laughing and could not straighten her back. She could only try her best to wave her hands and say with a voice that was shaking from laughter. I'm not a pedophile, ha 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 ha, little brat or whatever, ha 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 burp, I'm not interested at all, ha 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 ha, female, your nickname is hypocritical. Victor pretended to be deep in thought. Don't say one thing but mean another. You obviously like me. Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis's neck and shook it. Hurry up and leave, I'm going to die of laughter if you don't leave now, but Elvis stood at his original spot without moving an inch. His face darkened and he raised his eyebrows. Reject him, immediately. Gu Mengmeng knew that the word love rival was equivalent to Elvis and Lee's minefield. Whoever stepped on it would be blown up. Today, not only did this little brat step on it, he even did a breaking dance in the minefield. Looking at Elvis's dark face, Gu Mengmeng did not dare to laugh anymore. She knew that he was really angry and it was the kind of explosive rage. That's right, even when Gu Mengmeng hugged Natalie's newborn little bun, Elvis asked her if she wanted brothers to share the same wife. Victor, this 5-year-old little kid, was indeed old enough in Elvis's eyes. Gu Mengmeng's smile was dispersed by Elvis's dark face. Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis's neck and kissed his face. Hubby, don't be angry. With that, Gu Mengmeng jumped down from Elvis's arms and walked straight to Victor. She leaned against Lee's chest and stood in a slanted position. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and raised her chin. Hey, little brat. Liking me proves that you have good taste. But it's a pity that I don't like males who can be beaten down by me. Victor recalled how Gu Mengmeng had slapped off one of his teeth that day and blushed. He snorted and said, but they can't beat you either. Gu Mengmeng's face turned red. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. But I don't even know how to fight them. Victor wanted to say more, but after receiving Gu Mengmeng's meaningful glance, he forcefully swallowed his words. Clenching his fists, he said, I got it. One day when I am strong enough, I will come and find you again. At that time, I will definitely be able to defeat you, and then you will no longer be able to reject my mating request. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. Yeah, I'll wait and see. After saying that, Victor turned around and left. He walked faster and faster until he was almost running. The first confession in his life ended just like that. Victor was very upset. That day when Gu Mengmeng stepped on him, he laid on the ground and looked at her. The sun was right above her head and her entire body seemed to be glowing. At that moment, Victor knew that the love at first sight he had in this lifetime was used up just like that. He hesitated for a few days. Every day, he would pretend to pass by Natalie's door by accident. He just wanted to look at her from afar. He did not know what he wanted to see her doing. He only knew that her existence itself made him extremely happy. Knowing that she was leaving today, he mustered his courage to block her path and confess to her. It was not that she did not understand. Her smile had nothing to do with liking him. She was just laughing at him for overestimating himself. Aside from the topic, today's update has ended. Chapter 1063. How could he not feel the dangerous aura emanating from Elvis and Leah? He was just suppressing the urge to run and risking his life in exchange for a result. In the end, he understood Gu Mingming's gaze. She was saying, "Hurry up and leave, you will die if you don't." He might as well just die. Being saved by the female he liked in such a way, he might as well die in a mating battle. After Victor ran far away, he was stopped by someone. The people who stopped him were none other than Kanwo and Qi Xian. Qi Xian was just watching the show, leaning against a tree trunk without saying a word. He was here, because his mother said, "Fighting a tiger is a brother, you cannot let your younger brother suffer." "Victor, I treat you as my opponent, but you actually want to be my daddy." Without a second word, Kanwo directly punched Victor's face. Victor was a second-level orc. It was easy for him to dodge Kanwo's attack. Dodging with a sidestep, he suppressed the frustration in his heart and said with the air of a senior, "Don't mess around, you can't beat me." Victor's pretentious words made Kanwo even angrier. Without a second word, he transformed into his original form and charged forward. The wolf and tiger fought into a ball, while Qi Xian just held his forehead and watched. As long as his stupid brother did not suffer, he did not care about anything else. He was now thinking about more important things, such as, if someone passed by, how should he pretend not to know the two beasts who were fighting so miserably? After letting Victor go, Gu Mengmeng turned around and met Li's long and narrow eyes. His slender and bony fingers hooked Gu Mingming's chin lightly, and with a cold smile in his eyes, he said, "You promised me that if there's a male you like, you will tell me in advance and allow me to eliminate him." Gu Mengmeng laughed dryly. "Yeah, if there is really someone I like, I will definitely tell you in advance." Leah narrowed his eyes. "Gu Mengmeng, you lied to me." "Mm." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and denied. No, how would I dare?" "But you were clearly letting him go on purpose just now." Leah inched closer and an oppressive aura enveloped Gu Mengmeng tightly. "I saw the way you winked at him." Elvis walked forward and stood shoulder to shoulder with Leah. He did not say a word and just frowned and pursed his lips. He looked at Gu Mengmeng quietly with a pained and speechless expression. He was the first partner, so he couldn't be like Leia and say whatever she wanted. But only the heavens knew that he was so jealous that he wanted to slap that arrogant brat into meat paste. He wanted to lock Gu Mengmeng fiercely in his arms and question her brazenly like Leah why she smiled at that fellow. He wanted to loudly order her not to give anyone else a chance. But after the words rolled around in his throat, what came out was, "If you like tigers, you might as well consider Oritin. At least you're stronger than him, and you're not as annoying." Leah originally thought that Elvis would at least stand on his side at this moment. But the moment Elvis said that, Leah exploded instantly. How dare you? If you dare to consider Oriton, I will slaughter him and stew him with potatoes the moment I return to Saint Nazaire. Gu Meng Meng walked past Leah and her eyes were instantly filled with tears. She looked up at Elvis. Are you serious? You want me to accept Oriton? Chapter 1064. Elvis, you have no conscience. Gu Meng Meng said as she punched Elvis's chest. She did not use much strength and it was light as a feather. After a few punches, she pounced into Elvis's arms and sobbed, You can't wait to push me to someone else. Are you sick of me now? You don't like me anymore, right? Sobs. Elvis, you have a change of heart, haven't you? He was beaten and misunderstood, but he was not angry. She behaved like a child in his arms. She clearly knew that he could not do anything to her tears, but she still squeezed out a few drops of tears to fake her tears and force him to give in. The heaviness in his heart suddenly lessened. Not because of anything else, but because at this moment, she was in his arms. Heaving a sigh of relief, Elvis hugged Gu Meng Meng in his arms and said, My heart hasn't changed, can I dig it out for you to see? Gu Meng Meng blinked and shook her head, saying, I won't allow you to hurt my husband. Elvis smiled bitterly and tapped Gu Meng Meng's little nose, saying, I can't hurt your husband's heart, the only one who can make his heart ache is you. Gu Meng Meng wiped her tears and softened her voice, saying, I won't do anything to make my husband's heart ache. When you look at other males, your heart hurts. When you smile at other males, it hurts too. You have to accept other males, just thinking about it makes you feel so much pain that you wish you were dead. Elvis said. Gu Meng Meng's little hand gently touched Elvis's chest. Her soft fingers had a gentle power that slowly seeped into Elvis's chest, as if it was really comforting the pain in his heart. Pouting, Gu Meng Meng said, I won't smile anymore, I won't smile in front of others anymore, don't hurt, no. Elvis kissed Gu Meng Meng's brows and said, You still have to smile, because I will hurt if you smile, but if you don't smile, I will die. He did not forget how depressed Gu Meng Meng was when Snake just died, and how torturous his life was when she did not smile. But, you can only stay in my arms. This was his final bottom line. He could not back down. Gu Meng Meng chuckled and kissed his lips back. Silly hubby, I have nowhere else to go other than in your arms. Elvis's heart felt like it was being scratched by a cat. Nowhere to go. How could this be? She was so beautiful, so dazzling, someone that the whole world desired. Everyone wanted to be her home. As for her, it wasn't that she didn't have a choice. She just said that she had to have him. The gloominess in Elvis's heart completely dissipated. He pinched Gu Meng Meng's little face and said, All right. If you have somewhere else to go in the future, I might consider tearing this world apart so that you have nowhere to go except for my embrace. Gu Meng Meng chuckled and kissed Elvis on the cheek. Yeah, your title as the leader of the Husky Demolition Team is not just for show. I believe in your professional abilities. He did not know what nonsense she was spouting, but just looking at her smile, he could not help but laugh along with her. Chapter 1065. Lee's heart skipped a beat. He was excited at first, but then stopped abruptly. He frowned and took a step back. His gaze was so deep that he could not even maintain his smile. He shook his head firmly and said, No, don't mention this again in the future. Lee's reaction, Gu Meng Meng was extremely confused. She was very sure of Lee's feelings towards her and was very confident. But, why? Gu Meng Meng did not understand. Didn't the males in the beast world yearn for offspring? Why was this fox and her family so resistant? Gu Meng Meng herself did not have the habit of giving birth, but she had always thought that since she gave birth to a litter of wolf pups for Elvis, she should at least give birth to a litter for Leah to be fair. But he actually rejected her so righteously. This suddenly made Gu Mengmeng feel a little uncomfortable. She could not describe it, but it felt weird. Leah turned his head and avoided Gu Mengmeng's gaze for the first time. He only said, "I don't like little cubs, they're too noisy and annoying." Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes and shook her head. When Hedda and his brothers were young, Elvis always threw them to you to raise. You treasured them so much that you never showed any impatience. Don't think that I don't know how much envy you have in your eyes every time you see the 4 little ones. Previously, I always had things to do, so I did not mention this. Now that I am free and am willing to give birth to your children, why do you look so unhappy? Why, are you afraid that I will use this to blackmail you? Leah took a deep breath and said, "Anyway, I'm not giving birth." You. Gu Mengmeng suddenly felt speechless. There was no reason, only a stance. Not giving birth meant not giving birth. Gu Mengmeng suddenly laughed. She looked up at Leah in a provocative manner and said, "If you have the ability, then don't touch me." What she meant was that unless you become a monk for your entire life, I have the final say on whether you give birth or not. Leah made a prompt decision and replied in a righteous manner, "I don't have the ability." Gu Mengmeng was amused by Li's strong and cowardly attitude. She did not know what to say to him. Leah did not give Gu Mengmeng time to think and continued, "Just like before, just place it outside or somewhere else. As long as it is not placed there, you will not get pregnant." When Leah said that, Gu Mengmeng suddenly realized something. After giving birth to Hedda and his brothers, other than the time she mated with Leah, Leah and Elvis did not seem to have planted their seeds in her body again. Glancing at Leah and then at Elvis, Gu Mengmeng frowned, realizing that things were not so simple. "Did you two discuss this beforehand?" Gu Mengmeng asked. Elvis did not avoid it and just nodded his head. "Yes, we've discussed it. We already have 4 sons in our family, and all of them have lived to adulthood. This is enough. So what Leah and I mean is that we won't let you get pregnant again." "Why?" Gu Mengmeng was really speechless. "I like children, furry and cute." Chapter 1066. Gu Mengmeng decided not to walk anymore. She took 2 steps back and stood opposite Elvis and Leah. She squinted her eyes and sized them up. After a moment of silence, she opened her mouth and said, "I have Wang Xiaoxin's psychological knowledge now. If I want to, I can trick you two into revealing the truth step by step. But I don't want to do that. So you better tell me immediately, directly and clearly, what is the situation?" Leo was unwilling to say because he was afraid that Gu Mengmeng would feel burdened and guilty. Because she had 2 partners, she was always careful in relationships. She did not dare to say things that she could ask for in a righteous manner. Just like Victor's confession of love just now, no matter whether Gu Mengmeng intended to accept Victor or not, his and Elvis's actions were inappropriate in the beast world. She had the right to be angry and could even abandon him and Elvis because of this, but she anxiously coaxed them instead. This made them even more insatiable and even started to blur the boundaries of the dominant position in the family. But Leah did not forget that he was the one who forced Gu Mengmeng to such a lowly position. If he had accepted Gu Mengmeng with a clear conscience back then and did not create those troubles, then he and Gu Mengmeng would be living like deities now. Or when she and Elvis had clearly rejected him after mating, he should have let go of her easily. Even if he was secretly in pain, he should not pester her, disturb her, or force her. If that was the case, she would definitely be living in a righteous manner. But greed was human nature and it was engraved in their bones. When they could not get it, they wanted to get more. When they got more, they wanted to monopolize it. Now that monopolization was impossible, then, they were like wild beasts protecting their food, baring their teeth to warn and threaten their own kind that tried to approach them. If it was in other families, they would be despised and abandoned males. But facing their possessiveness, Gu Mengmeng tolerated it with a guilty heart. Leah sometimes felt very conflicted. He really did not want Gu Mengmeng to have other males, but he also hoped that Gu Mengmeng could be more righteous, even if she scolded him. So, when Gu Mengmeng asked him why he did not want to give birth to little foxes, he hesitated. Not willing. Every nerve and cell in his body was roaring. He wanted the child she bore for him. But, Leah frowned and lowered his head. The previous messenger of the beast deity was best at reading people's minds. Up till now, a lot of important information had been lost from the inheritance, but with just an incomplete copy, the Snow Fox clan could still control the entire beast world. In this generation, both Cole and Leah were the cream of the crop. It was just that one had become an ambitious person while the other had become a hermit. Coincidentally, both of them had their eyes on the same woman. Leah did not want Gu Mengmeng to see any flaws from his face, so all he could do was to lower his head and avoid talking. Elvis's thoughts were not as complicated as Lee's. He only knew that he had promised Gu Mengmeng not to hide anything from her and he had to keep his word. Chapter 1067. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback and did not know whether to laugh or cry. The things that she could not understand no matter how hard she thought about it became clear in an instant. It was not that complicated at first, but she was the one who worried for nothing. So, you guys did not let me get pregnant because you felt sorry for me. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. She laughed at herself for forgetting the pain after the scar healed. She was in so much pain when she gave birth to Heda and his brothers, but now, she only remembered that it was quite painful, but how painful was it? She could not remember it all. Perhaps when she was giving birth to the 4 brothers, she had really shouted that she did not want to give birth anymore, but now, she could not remember it anymore. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and opened her arms to hug him. Elvis pulled her into his arms and rubbed his face against her neck intimately, satisfied with the fullness of having her in his arms. Gu Mengmeng was such an existence to Elvis. She did not need to do anything, but her presence could fill his heart to the brim. Gu Mengmeng pulled Lee's hand and smiled gently. I have the powers of a beast king now. Even if you cut me open and dissect me, I might not die. Giving birth to a child is a piece of cake. Leah felt very helpless. He had struggled for a long time and did not want to say it, but Elvis had said it out loud so easily. So, he was the best candidate to be the first partner. As for himself, he might never be able to be as calm as he was in front of Gu Mengmeng. He was not afraid of Gu Mengmeng knowing anything. As for himself, no matter how hard he tried, some thoughts were stuck in his mouth. Pinching Gu Mengmeng's little hand, Leah chuckled. You won't die, but you will be in pain. Elvis and Leah had the same thoughts. They had both seen Gu Mengmeng giving birth with their own eyes. Even now, Elvis could still taste the blood in his mouth. It was as if a basin of rusty water had been poured into his windpipe. That feeling was unforgettable. Usually, when his Xiaomang's hand was pricked by a wooden thorn, he would feel as if his heart was being smashed by a stick. And that night, Gu Mengmeng's blood flowed like a river and she was in so much pain that she wished she was dead. That scene had really shocked them. They knew that they did not have the courage to go through it again. If they saw Gu Mengmeng in so much pain again, they would probably go crazy. Gu Mengmeng's gaze reflected the sunlight and landed on Li's face. She smiled peacefully and said, but, if I don't give birth to a nest of cubs for you, I will feel very regretful. She gave Elvis, Heda and his brothers, and also gave Elvis the title and status of the first partner. But other than a mark on her ear, Leah had nothing else. Leah sighed. If the reason that Gu Mengmeng mentioned was about him, he could use a sentence that he had long prepared, I don't need cubs to brush her off. But she said she would regret it, she also wants a nest of their cubs, right? It wasn't all because of guilt and inferiority, but because she loved him. That was why she wanted a nest of their cubs. Gu Mengmeng, I don't want to see you bleed anymore, and I don't want to see you in pain anymore. Leo looked deeply at Gu Mengmeng and said. Gu Mengmeng patted Li's shoulder and said, "It's alright, just don't guard the cave when I'm alive this time." Leo was speechless. Her solution was to keep him out of sight. Gu Mengmeng. Chapter 1068. Previously it was Elvis, this time it was her. She did not even change her lines. Even though he knew that she wanted to act, Leo was still willing to cooperate. If she wanted to hear it, he was willing to pour out his heartfelt words into her ears every day. "There is a scar on my heart, where the sky once fell. If you cut open my chest, you will realize that the scar is very special. There are only 5 words: I don't love you anymore." Gu Mingming's heart shrank as if it was being scratched by a cat. She knew better than anyone else who said, "I don't love you anymore." Pursing her lips and not saying a word, Gu Mingming's eyes met Li's long and narrow pupils. She was sucked in by his deep love and could not move an inch. Leo went forward and kissed the tip of her brows lightly, whispering softly, "A body of pure white fur established my holy and noble childhood. I was once a child blessed by the gods. I stood at the most dazzling place under the sun and was worshipped by people. I also once fell into hell because of hatred, killed hundreds of demons, stepped on other people's bones to climb up, becoming the most evil existence in this world. However, from the moment I met you, I was empty." He placed Gu Mingming's little hand by his lips and kissed it gently, looking up at Gu Mengmeng, continuing, "That's right, I said I was empty. I emptied my body and emptied my heart. There is no good or evil, only you. In my name, I swear to the beast deity, from today onwards, only you are my God, my life, my everything." Leo repeated the oath he made back then, still full of deep love. His long and narrow eyes were full of infatuation, gently but firmly entwined around Gu Mengmeng, not leaving a single gap. "If you are kind, I will redeem myself and become a Buddha. If you are evil, I will sacrifice myself and become a demon." Li's fingers hooked Gu Mingming's chin lightly, kissing her thin lips. The kiss was lingering but not deep, giving off a sense of beauty as if they were filming an idle drama. After a long while, Leah finally pulled away, looking at Gu Mengmeng with misty eyes, saying, "I will be wherever you are, regardless of good or evil, regardless of life or death." "But you say, I don't love you like this." They were an old couple, right? But Gu Mengmeng still blushed and her heart raced from Li's occasional teasing. That's true. This sentence, "Don't you love me anymore?" In the modern era, this was a golden phrase that could do anything. As long as this line was used, boys could only submit. Whether it was right or wrong, in front of this sentence, if you didn't want to make a mess, you could only admit defeat. Because once it rose to the value of, "You don't love me, it would be quite difficult to coax." Or, "You actually want to change girlfriends, so it doesn't matter." However, this did not work in the beast world. It's not that it won't work. The reverse will work as well. Chapter 1069. Snatch a nest. Gu Mingming's mind couldn't keep up with Li's pace and she didn't understand what he meant. Leah nodded. "Although it may be a little troublesome, it shouldn't be difficult to set up a trap. As long as you kill a female that has just given birth, you can get a nest of fox cubs. The last time I heard from Oakley, he said that there were 3 litters of newborns. Among them, Philly's 3 cubs are the best and Lacey's have the most with 5 cubs. Which nest do you want?" Gu Mengmeng stared at Leah for a long time and confirmed that Leah was serious, her face flushed with shock. "It's not like I can't give birth myself. Why would I snatch someone else's?" Leah replied, "I can't bear for you to suffer." Gu Mengmeng hurriedly waved her hands. "But you can't kill a mother and snatch someone else's child." Leah shrugged. "Why not?" "Why? Yes, in this beast world, forceful snatching was the right thing to do. So Cole snatched her Qixuan away and she could only snatch it back. Power was justice. If she couldn't win, she couldn't reason with him. Gu Mengmeng still shook her head. Leah, you know that the education I received since young is different from you. I have deeply ingrained values and there are many things I can't do. Leah didn't force her and took a step back. Then don't snatch them away. Let them raise them themselves. When you want to play, I will bring them over for you to play with. You can just return them when you are done playing with them. Gu Mengmeng replied, don't you feel envious looking at other people's little foxes? Li's long and narrow eyes brightened. Layers of smiles and gentleness rippled out, slowly pouring into Gu Mengmeng's bright eyes. When you are by my side, I have never envious of anyone. Gu Mengmeng's heart fluttered under Li's affectionate gaze. She blushed slightly and lowered her head in silence. Cole, who had been waiting at the stray beast camp for a long time but Gu Mengmeng and the rest still hadn't appeared. He came over and heard Li's confession. He snorted in disdain. If you care about everything with your mouth, what about a mute? With a pop, the romantic dividend bubble was burst by Wabi. Gu Mengmeng sighed and shook her head in exasperation. You're an old bachelor, what do you know? I am only over 800 years old this year. You are the 10,000-year-old bachelor. Wabi and Gu Mengmeng would feel uncomfortable if they did not exchange a few words. Gu Mengmeng wrapped one arm around Elvis's neck and the other around Leah. She said, I have a partner, I can't afford to be a bachelor. Wabi gritted his teeth. Great, Gu Mengmeng found another point to mock him. Damn it, if I had known earlier, I wouldn't have been so talkative. What a waste of time. Wabi pretended not to hear Gu Mengmeng's provocation. He swung his tail impatiently. Are you leaving or not? What? Are you going to spend the night here? Chapter 1070. Then. Wabi wanted to ask more, but was interrupted by Gu Mengmeng. Let's hurry, I want to return to Saint Nazaire as soon as possible. Gu Mengmeng thought to herself, after such a big fuss, Victor's matter had finally been settled. She better not let that idiot Wabi bring it up again. How could Elvis and Leah not understand her? But that Victor wasn't worth pursuing too much. It was enough for them to make their stance clear. It was not worth it to harp on and make things difficult for Gu Mengmeng. Moreover, if that stupid tiger hadn't used his age to agitate Elvis and Leah, they wouldn't have cared about him at all. After a day's journey, they found a cave to rest in at night. Elvis and the rest had dug this cave the last time they returned to Saint Nazaire from the stray beast camp. At that time, they had thought that Natalie and Peter were here, and given Gu Mengmeng's character, they would definitely come here often. So they had dug this cave in advance, so that Gu Mengmeng could rest on her way back and forth. The cave was well hidden, and with Gu Mengmeng's Beast King scent lingering around, ordinary beasts wouldn't dare to approach, not to mention wild beasts. After dinner, it started to drizzle. Such weather was more comfortable for Wabi outdoors than indoors, so he swam out. Gu Mengmeng didn't bother about him. Leah started a fire in the cave to keep the inside of the cave dry so that Gu Mengmeng could have a comfortable sleep. Ever since Gu Mengmeng had a nosebleed in solder, Leah hadn't started a fire in the cave for a long time. When she slept, Elvis and Leah would hug each other to keep Gu Mengmeng warm. There was a fire in the cave, and the warmth made Gu Mengmeng sleepy. She closed her eyes in Elvis's arms and fell into a deep sleep. Looking at her defenseless sleeping face, Elvis narrowed his eyes. That slightly opened mouth was like an invitation, making Elvis a little dazed. Before his brain could make a decision, his lips were already pressed against that wet spot. In her half-dream, she sensed a familiar scent. Gu Mengmeng didn't resist, but instinctively wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck. This action was undoubtedly a form of encouragement, making Elvis, who only wanted to steal a kiss, even more irresistible. Flipping over, he pressed one hand against the side of her ear and the other around the back of her head, using his forearm as a pillow for her. He half knelt in between her legs to support his body's strength, sticking close to her but not crushing her. This kiss gradually developed from light and sweet to lingering. As she was too familiar with Elvis, Gu Mengmeng instinctively responded to this kiss but did not open her eyes, as if it was an unconscious action in her sleep. When her tongue responded to his teasing, he seemed to have received some kind of permission and became even more unbridled. Gu Mengmeng, whose pajamas were already heavy from the warmth of the campfire, felt even more dizzy from Elvis's kiss. Her brain could not react but her body gave the most direct response. The fox's seductive fragrance filled the entire room. The fragrance was strong and alluring. "Xiao Meng, you're giving your permission, right?" Elvis's deep and hoarse voice rang beside Gu Mengmeng's ear, teasing the string in her heart. Gu Mengmeng moaned, because of the ticklish feeling. She twisted her body twice, as if expressing her dissatisfaction at Elvis restricting her movements. Chapter 1071. Elvis had not started eating for a long time and so was Leah. "But, I will go out and guard for you." Leah stood up with much difficulty, fighting with his rationality and desire. Elvis also knew the reason why Leah gave up on joining when he was in the throes of passion. He was afraid that Gu Mengmeng would pester him to mention the little fox again, so he avoided her alone. After all, if Gu Mengmeng really wanted to pester him, how could he and Leah resist her? But you can't hide from her forever. Leah paused his steps with much difficulty. He did not turn back, afraid that he would pounce on her, so he said, "Bear with it first, we will talk about it after she forgets about it." Elvis looked at Lee's back view and remained silent for a moment, before saying, "Next time, I will help you guard." "Yeah." Leah still walked out in the end, even though every step was difficult and he was in a pathetic state. But it was better than enduring the fire burning his body, it was better than watching her suffer so much just to give birth to a nest of spoiled cubs. Sitting at the entrance of the cave, Leah looked up at the sky and smiled bitterly. "I told you before, it's enough for us to have one fox in our family, but you just won't listen. So naughty." In the cave, the atmosphere became even more intense after Leah left. Elvis caressed Gu Mengmeng's hair lightly and called out gently, "Xiao Meng, open your eyes and look at me, yeah?" "Yeah." Gu Mengmeng was already awake, but her eyelids were so dry that she was unwilling to open them. Women were just so strange. She would not have any thoughts before experiencing it, but after experiencing it, her body would start to have needs. Moreover, the more wonderful the experience, the better her body would be developed, and the more sensitive and eager she would be towards certain things. Elvis's comfort had long ignited Gu Mengmeng's body. It would be a miracle if she could still sleep peacefully. Wrapping her hands around Elvis's neck, Gu Mengmeng turned around and laid on his chest. She rubbed against his neck in a coquettish manner, her little hands caressing his collarbone and the tip of her tongue lightly licking his Adam's apple. Elvis's throat tightened and he instinctively swallowed his saliva, his Adam's apple bobbing up and down. This small response made Gu Mengmeng feel like a child who had stolen a fruit and was especially interested in this moving candy. Her half-asleep body was even softer than usual. She laid on Elvis's body as though she had no bones and rested her head on his shoulder. Her entire body was emitting a seductive fragrance and her body temperature was slightly hot, making Elvis's internal organs feel comfortable. The little person who was causing trouble did not open her eyes. Her small mouth wandered between his neck and chin as if she was tasting a delicacy. She nibbled and kissed, making his chin full of saliva. However, he was reluctant to pull the little person away from his body. The itch in his heart was unbearable, but he damn enjoyed the torment. Gu Mengmeng was born to torture him. "Hubby," Gu Mengmeng called out softly. Elvis's bones completely melted when he heard her. He breathed heavily beside Gu Mengmeng's ear and gently bit her earlobe, asking softly, What do you want me to do? Gu Meng Meng bit Elvis's chin and did not use much strength. Then, she said in a muffled voice, Kiss, hug and raise me up high. Elvis chuckled and the word good was drowned between their lips and teeth. The ground was full of flowers, the ambiguous flowers blossomed. Out of topic. Hurry, there's no time, hurry up and board the train. Look at the car plate, 4927799273. After boarding the train, look for the administrator to check the tickets. Babes with more than 800 fans can enter the VIP cabin and enjoy the special treatment of overflowing meat fragrance. Note, this train is not heading to the kindergarten. Please do not sneak onto the train if you want to go to the kindergarten. This train is not heading to the kindergarten. Please do not sneak onto the train if you want to go to the kindergarten. Chapter 1072. She had been tortured by Elvis too much. If she had given up and fainted as usual, she would have recovered after a day's rest. But because she had promised him, Gu Meng Meng forced herself to stay conscious and fight for half a night. She had truly experienced the difference in their abilities at every juncture. In a daze, she heard Elvis ask her if she wanted to set off. She said something in a daze, and then she felt her body start to move unsteadily. Yeah, it should be Elvis carrying her toward Saint Nazaire. Gu Meng Meng slept more peacefully this way. She slept for more than 2 days straight. When she woke up, she was in Frankston. Gu Meng Meng could recognize this place mainly because Hanston and Joshua were standing right in front of her. Yeah, third-level rhinoceros and first-level apes. The tribe had taken in the old tribesmen who had attacked the Snake King Valley. They had once requested to mate with her in Sauter, but were threatened and mocked by Elvis and Leah. After that, they had never seen each other again. Gu Meng Meng remembered Leah telling her that Frankston and Saint Nazaire shared a border. They had never met before because they did not dare to appear in front of Elvis. This time, they were quite daring. Were they not afraid that Elvis and Leah would be unhappy and really destroy Frankston? Leah was preparing lunch for Gu Meng Meng. After Victor's lesson, Gu Meng Meng did not dare to show any attention to other males. She did not even dare to look around and just stared at Elvis's Adam's apple. She did not spare a single glance at Hanston and Joshua who were standing in front of her. Damn it, Elvis's jealousy was not something to joke about. She had already slept for 2 days and still felt pain all over as if she had been hit by a truck. And this was with the protection of the Beast King's abilities. If not, Gu Meng Meng really felt that she had been too rash in mating. She should have tried marriage in advance. Otherwise, it would be too late for regrets when she died in bed one day. Elvis was very satisfied with Gu Meng Meng's reaction. How good would it be if she could stay in his arms obediently like a kitten and not give anyone a chance? After knowing that the great messenger was passing by Frankston, the two of us specially came to escort you to ensure that you are safe in Frankston. Hanston said respectfully. No need. Gu Meng Meng waved her hands and said, Elvis and Leah are enough to take care of me, I don't need anyone else. Wabi rolled his eyes, which meant, do you think I'm not human? Gu Meng Meng glared at Wabi from the side of Elvis's neck, meaning to say, why are you pretending to be a human when you're just a pile of shit? Wabi didn't want to embarrass Gu Meng Meng in front of outsiders, so he tolerated it and didn't make a sound. He just slowly closed his eyes. Out of sight, out of mind. Hanston understood the meaning behind her words and thought that she was still upset about the time he had proposed to her in Sauter, so he said, Great messenger, don't misunderstand. Hanston knows that I am not worthy of you and I have already put away those thoughts that I shouldn't have. This time, he was really here to escort the Lord Emissary. After all, this is Frankston's territory. If the great messenger encounters anything unpleasant here, we won't be able to bear the consequences. Chapter 1073. Joshua could not withstand the silent stare of a fifth-level orc like Elvis. His heart was beating so fast that it was about to jump out of his chest. But from the corner of his eyes, he saw Gu Meng Meng, who was nestled in Elvis's arms and had not looked at him at all. He did not have the right to challenge, but he could not give up. He lowered his head, not daring to look at Elvis in the eye, but said with a trembling voice, "I like the mighty messenger, this will not change. But I also know that I do not have the right to pursue her, so I will not do anything unnecessary to make myself look pathetic in front of the mighty messenger." Ha! Elvis chuckled and waved his hands, saying, "What makes you think that I will allow an idiot who covets my female to stand out in front of Xiao Meng? I will give you two choices, scram now, or..." Before Elvis could finish his sentence, he shook his body and instantly released his fifth-level beast pressure, then immediately retracted it. It was as if Joshua was inflated into a human-shaped balloon at the opening of a shopping mall in a second, then immediately deflated back to his original size. His knees gave way and he knelt on the ground, reverting to his original form, but he did not even have the strength to escape. Hugging his head with both hands, Joshua buried his face tightly in his knees, trembling all over. Hanston was here to express goodwill and not to cause trouble. Seeing how Elvis was acting, if they did not leave now, he might just kill the two of them right here, so he did not dare to delay any further. He only helped Joshua up and said, "Since that's the case, we'll head back first. After all, we are neighbors and we still have to rely on St. Nazir's water source to survive the dry season." Elvis did not say a word, just looking at Hanston and Joshua with disdain like a king, expressionless and dignified. After Hanston left, Leah swayed his tail and placed one arm on Elvis's shoulder, while the other reached into his arms to poke Gu Meng Meng, who was curled up like an ostrich. He laughed, he did not want to show his embarrassment in front of Gu Meng Meng, did he think that we would allow him to maintain a good image in front of Gu Meng Meng? Seeing that everyone had left, Gu Meng Meng heaved a sigh of relief. She leaned on Elvis's shoulder and said, "He was just a first-level orc. Weren't you a little too ruthless?" "I was scared out of my wits." Elvis chuckled. "If it was in the past, I would have just bitten him to death. I was afraid you wouldn't like it, so I held back." Gu Meng Meng did not say anything else. After all, she had heard about what kind of person Elvis was in the past. He had already changed a lot because of her habits and personality. He had always been accommodating her, hadn't he? Leah prepared lunch and Gu Meng Meng ate it casually before continuing their journey. It only took half a day to travel from Frankston to St. Nazir. That night, Gu Meng Meng returned to St. Nazir. And before she entered the territory, a row of familiar people were already standing there waiting for Gu Meng Meng. Barit and Oriton, the two great guards, stood right in the middle. It was rare that Ian did not climb up the tree and just stood there looking at Gu Meng Meng with a faint smile. Fei Rui, who was half a head shorter, stood beside him. His pair of clear eyes reflected the stars in the sky, so bright that one could not shift their gaze away from him. Chapter 1074. Oriton was much more at ease, or perhaps it should be said that his naturally paralyzed face was too perfect. Even if he had any emotions, he would hide 95% of them, so no one could tell whether he was happy or sad. He just cleared his throat and asked, "Have you guys eaten dinner?" Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, "I knew you were waiting, so I came back to eat with you." Oriton was obviously taken aback, then he frowned slightly and said, "I have already prepared the prey for you. Today I am not eating. I will only help you cut the meat, start the fire and wash the cutlery." Oriton was not eating. Not only was he not eating, he was also watching from the side. Was he torturing himself? Seeing that Gu Meng Meng was not saying anything, Oriton clenched his fists and said, "I am not eating tomorrow either." Gu Meng Meng was so stunned, a foodie actually changed his nature. Seeing that Gu Meng Meng was still not saying anything, Oriton frowned and clenched his fists tightly, as if he was enduring an extreme pain and shouted, "I am not eating the day after tomorrow either. 3 days is the limit, I cannot tolerate any longer. If you are still not appeased, just let your partner fight with me. Gu Mengmeng, she had clearly said from the start that she deliberately did not eat dinner today, so that she could eat with him. Did she look like she was very angry? How cruel was it to deprive a foodie of the right to eat? Why would such a kind and gentle person like Gu Mengmeng do such a heavy thing? Wasn't that right? Gu Mengmeng covered her mouth and chuckled, saying, "Are you apologizing to me for leaving Sauter without saying goodbye?" Oritin didn't say anything. He looked away guiltily, then nodded his head slightly. Gu Mengmeng tilted her head to look at Barit and said, "What about you? How do you intend to express your gratitude?" Barit's lips pressed into a straight line. He lowered his head and said, "I betrayed you. I should go to the platform of the deity's punishment." Gu Mengmeng did not express her opinion. She just said to Elvis, "I am hungry, let's go home first, we will talk after eating." Elvis did not care about the four of them at all. He just walked past them and returned to the entrance of the cave, putting Gu Mengmeng down. This was their habit. Every time they returned home, they would definitely put Gu Mengmeng down at the entrance, then Gu Mengmeng would hold their hands and return to the cave. It had been a long time since anyone had lived in the cave, so there was a thick layer of dust. Elvis took out a beast skin and laid a thick layer on the ground. He then placed Gu Mengmeng on the cushion and kissed her forehead before returning to the cave to tidy up. Leah started a fire in front of Gu Mengmeng and set up a stone pot. Without standing on ceremony, he took the meat Oritin had prepared, changed the knife, added some seasonings and started cooking. From the moment the fire was lit, Oritin's eyes never left the wok. Barit walked to Gu Mengmeng's side and sat beside her. He did not dare to look at her and just sat there quietly. After a long silence, he finally opened his mouth and said, "This time, I won't be able to survive." Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and looked at Barit, asking, "This is your way of compensating me?" Barit nodded and said, "Other than this life, I have nothing else. So, I can only offer this life to the beast deity to wash away my sins." Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, "You did something wrong to me, shouldn't you be apologizing to me? Why did you give it to my father?" Barit looked at her. He did not understand what Gu Mengmeng meant. Gu Mengmeng asked, "You don't want this life anymore, right?" Chapter 1075. Gu Mengmeng smiled and took a deep breath, saying, "Since you don't want it, give it to me. From today onwards, your life belongs to me and you have to listen to me for the rest of your life. You have to give up your own sense of right and wrong and only obey me. This is called compensation. If you die so easily, I won't get anything. How is that considered as an apology?" Barit was stunned by Gu Mengmeng's reasoning. He was someone who had betrayed her. She was still willing to trust him again. She was still willing to give him another chance to stay by her side. He had thought that she would never forgive him. He had thought that she would never want to see him again. So he said he would go up the platform of the deity's punishment and never come down again. That way, she would be happier and appease some of her anger. But she said, he belonged to her now. "Why, you're not willing?" Gu Mengmeng raised her brows and said, "All right, I won't force you if you're not willing, then help me do 10 things instead, I'm willing." Barit blurted out. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and nodded in agreement, saying, all right. Then it's settled, but I haven't thought of the 10 things yet, you can owe me first." Barit shook his head and blushed. He looked at Gu Mengmeng with his bright eyes and said, "Not this. I mean, I'm willing to give my life to you and listen to you for the rest of my life. I don't have my own sense of right and wrong and only obey you. I'm willing." Ha! Actually, Gu Mengmeng had purposely said that to scare him. After all, they were friends. He knew that Oakley was plotting against her, but he did not even warn her before leaving without bidding farewell. Gu Mengmeng was quite resentful towards him for this. After all, if he had revealed a few words to let Gu Mengmeng know about Oakley earlier, maybe things could have changed. Oakley and Bloom wouldn't have to die. But Barit agreed just like that, and Gu Meng Meng was caught unprepared. Laughing dryly, Gu Meng Meng patted Barit's shoulder and said, "Actually, you just didn't report what you knew. It's not a crime worthy of death, and you don't need to throw away your entire life." Barit's expression stiffened. He retracted his gaze and lowered his head to look at his own shadow. He slowly asked, "You actually don't want to see me anymore, right? It's okay, don't force yourself. I don't deserve to be forgiven." Gu Meng Meng had transmigrated here for a year, but she was still not used to the relationships between men and women here. One was absolutely supreme, while the other was even lower than a speck of dust. As long as he made a female unhappy, he would deserve to die. Gu Meng Meng looked at Barit's expression. If she did not take his life and ravage it ruthlessly, he would admit that Gu Meng Meng had not forgiven him. Shaking her head helplessly, Gu Meng Meng said, "All right, I'll take care of your life first. When you meet a female you like Colin and want to mate with her, I'll return it to you." In other words, if he thought it through, he could be free at any time. After all, Gu Meng Meng said, when you want to mate with someone, and not after you mate. In other words, as long as Barit said, "I have someone I like, I want to mate," Gu Meng Meng would return him his freedom. Chapter 1076. From the first time he saw Gu Meng Meng, Barit had already set his eyes on this female. At that time, Elvis had wrapped her in a huge piece of beast skin and he did not even see her face. He only felt that the smell on her body was especially nice and different from all the other females. The first time they met, she raised her hand and slapped a male. This kind of action was very common in the beast world. Males would not even feel anything wrong when they were slapped and would only care if the female's hand hurt. But even so, he was still attracted to her. Because the reason she slapped someone was not because the male did something bad, but because the male liked her after smelling the scent on her body. Usually, females would feel that their vanity was satisfied and they would scold them symbolically. But he had never seen anyone really get angry like she did. Maybe, it was that slap that shattered the defense in his heart, so he could not help but be curious about what she was doing. What was she thinking? What would she do next? Then, her reaction surprised him time and time again, and he could not take his eyes off her. In this life, the craziest thing he had done was probably helping her escape. The most glorious thing was going up the platform of the deity's punishment for her. But ever since he knew that she was the messenger of the beast deity, Barit clearly knew that it was impossible for him to be with her in this lifetime. He was not worthy of her, wasn't he? After that, she mated with Elvis, and even someone like Leah had to put in a lot of effort before he finally got the upper hand. He could see everything about her clearly, and he knew better than anyone else that her heart was already fully occupied by Elvis and Leah. No one could come between them anymore. Those two would not give any other males any leeway. If he wanted to stay by Gu Meng Meng's side, the only way was to bury his love deep in his heart and let it fester and fester. He did not know when it started, but the 3 words Gu Meng Meng had become Barit's everything. How could he still talk about mating with other females now? The only one he wanted to mate with would never accept him, right? It was already good enough that he could protect her. Giving this life to her was also considered as belonging to her, right? This belonging was already a gift. He didn't dare to hope for more. Gu Meng Meng did not know how many things Barit was thinking about. She just tilted her head and said, "There's something that I have always wanted to ask." Barit collected his thoughts and looked at Gu Meng Meng, waiting for her to continue. Gu Meng Meng asked, "How did Oakley convince you and Orton back then? You don't seem like someone who would abandon me so easily." His heart was touched. He had clearly betrayed her, but she was still willing to believe that he would not abandon her so easily. Taking a deep breath, Barit said, "Oakley told me everything, I sympathized with him and Bloom, so I agreed to his plan." What Barit didn't say was that Oakley's persistence and disregard for his own safety had moved him. His own love would never come to fruition, but if there was another pair of lovers in the world, he would be happy to see it. Moreover, he was very clear that no matter what Oakley was planning, no one in this world could hurt Gu Mengmeng. This was the main reason why he dared to agree to Oakley's plan. Chapter 1077. After Leah finished cooking, Oriton was in a bewitched state. His eyes were fixed on the pot and his face was flushed red. Gu Mengmeng felt that even if she suggested chopping off one of Oriton's hands in exchange for him eating, he would not even blink and would only ask if it was his left or right hand. Gu Mengmeng was very naughty as she deliberately used an exaggerated eating method to taste Lee's cooking. She used the words commonly used in food shows to exaggerate her praises while purposely waving the bowl in front of Oriton. She pretended to be innocent and said, "It smells so good, Oriton, take a sniff." Oriton wanted to hit someone. Gu Mengmeng put down her bowl and chopsticks, holding her chin as she looked at Oriton and said, "Answer a few of my questions. If I am satisfied, I will let you eat." Oriton's expression did not change from beginning to end. He still had a poker face but his eyes obviously lit up. Gu Mengmeng asked, "Why did you listen to Oakley's arrangements and leave without even informing me?" Oriton replied, "Oakley told me and Barit about his arrangements." Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "So you also sympathized with him and Bloom, so you listened to his arrangements?" "No." Oriton shook his head and said, "I don't understand and have no interest in love. I will also not sacrifice half a year's worth of delicacies for that kind of thing." Gu Mengmeng laughed. Hearing his words, he sounded so wronged. In order to eat as soon as possible, Oriton started explaining in detail without holding back. "According to Oakley's plan, you will definitely not be back for a while. But if Ian is the only one in St. Nazaire, it will be hard to control the situation. First is the food storage for the winter. Last year, there was already news that St. Nazaire had a way to store food to prevent it from going bad. This year, the tribesmen of St. Nazaire started hunting in large numbers during the rainy season, which almost confirmed this rumor. If you are in St. Nazaire, there is naturally no need to say anything. But if you are not here..." Oriton paused for a moment before turning around to look at Elvis and Leah, before looking at Gu Mengmeng. He continued, "If the other tribes have a way to store food but St. Nazaire doesn't, what do you think your two partners will do to ensure that you don't have to starve during the winter?" What to do? Was there a need to say? Snatch it. Gu Mengmeng had no doubt that if they were in each other's shoes, Elvis would bring back all the food from the other party's tribe to ensure that she would have enough food during winter. The other males in the beast world might not be as powerful as him, but for their own females, they would definitely have the guts to do so. In this way, St. Nazaire would become the target of public criticism. "Ha, an innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth." Gu Mengmeng nodded, indicating that she understood. Actually, Oriton did not really understand what Gu Mengmeng was talking about, so he did not answer Gu Mengmeng. He just continued to be honest. "You're not around, Elvis and Leah are also not around, so St. Nazaire is in a protective vacuum state. This is equivalent to a pot of fragrant meat stewed, but there is no one guarding the side of the pot, so the wild beasts attracted by the fragrance of the food will naturally not be polite." Gu Mengmeng chuckled. Oriton's analogy really showed the true colors of a foodie. He couldn't help but tease, "So you came back to protect your food." Chapter 1078. Gu Mengmeng nodded in agreement and thought to herself, "Snatching food from the tiger's mouth is courting death." Oriton continued, "Even if Barit and I came back to guard, this rainy season is still very tough. People come in waves, the land beasts patrol in the day and the Eagle Owl tribe guards the entire night. Once there's any disturbance, all the tribesmen will join the battle immediately. Even so, almost half of the food has been snatched away. Luckily, with last year's experience, we are especially well prepared this year. So even if a lot of food has been snatched away, it's still enough for everyone to survive through the winter." Gu Mengmeng nodded and felt a little more at ease. Actually, the reason why she dared to abandon the entire Saint Nazaire and head to Sadr was mainly because the families of the 16 valued females she brought back from the beauty pageant all had powerful males. Each family had at least 1 or 2 4th-level beasts and at least 4 or 5 3rd-level beasts. This kind of strength was enough to look down on the entire beast world. In terms of the tribe's overall strength, no tribe was a match for them. But Gu Mengmeng had neglected one thing: these 16 valued females came from 16 different tribes. They were originally the most beautiful females in their tribes, and the males and their families were all extremely powerful in their original tribes. This led to a very serious problem. No one was willing to submit to anyone, and they would only care about their own family's matters when faced with a problem. So Oakley arranged for Barit and Oriton to come back because they were the messenger's guards and had a certain status in the beast world. In addition, those females had a kind of blind admiration for Gu Mengmei and even looked up to her guards. So the two of them had to come back. Not just to increase their fighting strength, but more importantly, to have someone who could make the decision when faced with a problem. They would not let Saint Nazaire become a pile of loose sand and be defeated by others one by one. Oriton continued, the rainy season after the winter is better. There's plenty of water and food, but the following dry season is the second problem. Gu Mingming's heart skipped a beat and she frowned. Water source. Oakley had spread the news about the water source. Sadr was indeed the #1 battlefield, but those who did not dare to face Gu Mengmei and the rest would naturally set their sights on Saint Nazaire, where the great demon king was not at home. After all, there was also a well here. Water in the dry season was equivalent to food in the winter, and the temptation was fatal. Oriton stared at the meat in Gu Mingming's bowl and swallowed his saliva. Then, he continued, luckily, Fei Rui has been guarding the well all this while. Once someone nears the well, he will let out a high-pitched warning sound and the tribesmen will rush over in time. These rounds of battles are really exhausting. Letting out a sigh, Oriton continued, if you had not returned, we would have been thrown into a new round of battle. Yes, the rainy season had arrived, and it was time to prepare food for the winter. If Gu Mengmeng was not around, the fight for food would definitely happen again. Gu Mengmeng sighed, feeling that she would not be able to spend this rainy season comfortably. Wabi straightened his neck and said, that's different. I am the strongest, so I can fight you. Scum who can't even beat me, what right does he have to talk back to you? So what you mean is that you will protect those who are weaker than you and ignore those who are stronger than you. Gu Mengmeng stared at Wabi with widened eyes. Wabi nodded without hesitation. That's right. When Snake tortured you in the past, I didn't dare to make a sound. Chapter 1080. Wabi was dizzy from Gu Mingming's shaking. He raised his hand to smack her on the head and pushed her far away. What are you shaking for? My head is spinning. Is your brain filled with sh*t? In the entire beast world, only Snake was more powerful than me, but you took him in. Now, you are the only one more powerful than me. If you really want to put on a show of bashing yourself, what else can I do other than to sit by the side and watch? Go up and give you 2 slaps and say you are not allowed to bash yourself. Gu Mingming's head was red from the smack, but she was not angry. She suddenly laughed out loud and took a step forward. She lifted Wabi's chin with an evil smile. Little baby, how did you know that my mind was filled with you just now? Wabi felt a chill run down his spine. He was a cold-blooded animal and could not feel the cold, but this was the first time he felt as though his bones were frozen. Waves of nausea churned in his stomach. He raised his leg to kick Gu Mengmeng, but she beat him to it and stepped on his ankle, pressing him down. Gu Mengmeng was clearly very skinny, but her strength was not just for show. Especially when she was hitting Wabi, she did not hold back at all. Wabi was immobilized by Gu Mengmeng. Damn, he felt as though he was an emperor being countered by a weak attacker. So damn ashamed. The bumps all over his body fell to the ground. Wabi glared at Gu Mengmeng fiercely. Get lost. Who the hell are you calling little baby? You are the little baby. Your entire tribe is little baby. Little shit, are you shy? Ha ha ha. Gu Mengmeng suddenly had a wicked sense of humor. She laughed sinisterly like a thief. Heh heh heh, go ahead and scream. Even if you scream until your throat breaks, no one will come to help you. Wabi stiffened his neck and howled. Hey, little wolf. Your female is in heat. Why aren't you bringing her back to the cave to settle it? Don't let her out to harm others. Gu Mengmeng did not give off any scent of the fox's seductive fragrance. She was not in heat at all. Elvis and Leah knew this very well. Moreover, the smile on Gu Mengmeng's face was really not related to lust at all. That was the expression of a little demon pranking someone. In this world, Wabi was probably the only one who could argue with Gu Mengmeng like this without Elvis and Leah feeling the slightest bit jealous. Elvis, who was singled out, chuckled and said, You are powerful and loyal to Xiao Meng. If she has the intention to accept you, it will be a good thing for our family. I don't oppose it. I advise you to give in. You can't win against her anyway. Wabi's fangs began to tremble. F***K. What kind of family was this? Turning his head to look at Leah, Wabi said, Hey, coquettish fox, hurry up and control your female. Your female is crazy. But Leah waved his tail and said coquettishly, my heart is still pounding from the beast pressure you released just now. Chapter 1081. Wabi had no choice but to admit defeat. Gu Mengmeng, you are my ancestor. I was wrong, alright. Can you clear your F***king head? Gu Mengmeng pushed Wabi to stand up. She clapped her hands. Tisk, so boring. Admitting defeat so quickly. Wabi flexed his wrist, which had almost been broken by Gu Mengmeng. He said fiercely, If I don't admit defeat, I will not be able to keep my chastity in my old age. Are those two in your family not enough to satisfy you? Why don't you consider taking in 2 more strong partners to fill the emptiness? I think those 3 are not bad. Wabi casually pointed at Barit, Oriton and Ian. Ian was the first to explode. You are giving something that you don't even want to me. Wabi narrowed his eyes. You are just a bird and you dare to despise the saintess of our Snake King Valley. You must be tired of living. Ian's face was flushed red but he could not say a word. He could not refute. Although he could fly, Wabi could easily slap him down from the sky with his beast pressure. He could not beat him. Oriton said in a low voice, If food is included. I don't mind. Leah chuckled. I mind. Let me tell you, you better not have any designs on my Gu Mengmeng. Otherwise, I will make sure you have no cooked food to eat for the rest of your life. Oriton nodded his head cautiously and said, Don't worry, I am only interested in food. As for females. Oriton looked at Gu Mengmeng seriously, but still shook his head and said, I feel that females are not as attractive as a plate of roasted meat. The great messenger is a little special. Probably 3 days' worth of rations, no more. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. Damn it. Previously, Sandy had pushed her out of solder for a portion of fruits. Now, Oriton was stabbing her in the back. Losing to roasted meat was so depressing. She felt like she was in a daze. Barit remained silent. He knew this was a joke. A joke that made him feel suffocated. He desperately wished it was real. Unfortunately, a joke was just a joke. Apart from him, no one would take it seriously. Soberit lowered his head and sat quietly on the spot. He tried to calm his surging emotions from Wabiai's casual pointing. He, unworthy. The noisy dinner ruined the quiet night, and the cave, which had not been inhabited for a long time, seemed to have warmed up a lot. When Gu Mengmeng returned to the cave to sleep, it was already dawn. This was the good thing about the cave. There were no windows. As long as she lived in it, the time outside would not affect her. Gu Mengmeng, who had planned to have a good sleep for a day and a night, was woken up by someone when she was deep in her dreams. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Ever since she inherited Snake's ability, her hearing was as good as having a loudspeaker in her ears. Even the slightest movement could be heard clearly. This obvious fighting sound was like a series of kicks being thrown into her ears. Gu Mengmeng sat up abruptly and realized that Elvis and Leah were no longer in the cave. Needless to say, the ones fighting at the door were definitely the two of them. Gu Mengmeng rolled up her sleeves and walked out in an aggressive manner. As she walked, she hollered, "Sparing people from their dreams is like killing their parents. Damn it, which one of you doesn't want to live anymore? How dare you disturb my sleep?" The fighting sound stopped abruptly. Elvis and Leah ran in together. One hugged Gu Mengmeng firmly while the other hurriedly handed her a cup of water. After all. Chapter 1082. Gu Mingming's entire body was emitting a dark aura. The lack of sleep had caused her to be in an extremely bad mood. The moment she came out of the cave, the sunlight was blinding. Elvis's large hands gently covered her eyes so that she could adapt to the light. Ever since she inherited Snake's abilities, her eyes were no longer the only way she could explore the world. Every cell in her body could tell her what was happening in places she could not see. "Who are you? What's the matter?" Gu Mingming's face accurately met with the people causing trouble at her door. Her teeth chattered loudly. Gu Mingming's voice was clearly gentle, but it made those few people shudder in fear, as if they had been frozen into ice under the scorching sun. Great messenger, we. Those people were so frightened by Gu Mingming's anger that their stomachs cramped up. Damn, they had been stray beasts for so many years and had done all kinds of dirty deeds. They had gone through so many life-and-death battles and faced countless near-death situations, but they had never felt so scared before. Indeed, bad people should stick to their character. It was much easier to snatch things than to give them away. Damn, it was really hard to be a good person. It was too scary. The gap between Elvis's fingers gradually opened, allowing the sunlight to land on Gu Mingming's eyes. Gu Mengmeng could already see the huge stone basins behind the stray beasts. They were filled with grapes. Raising her brows, Gu Mengmeng felt strangely less annoyed. Her tone also became better, but she was still a little lazy. She rested her forehead on Elvis's shoulder and glanced sideways at the orcs who had come to deliver the gifts. "These are for me." "Who asked you to deliver them?" "Great Lord Cole asked us to deliver." The stray beasts also felt very aggrieved. They did not back down when they were fighting Elvis just now, but now they could not even straighten their tongues in front of Gu Mengmeng. TSK, although she had guessed it, she was still in a bad mood. Rolling her eyes, she said, "Take them away, I don't want Cole's things." With that, Gu Mengmeng turned her head back to Elvis's shoulder, indicating that she wanted to return to the cave to continue sleeping. Upon seeing Gu Mingming's reaction, the stray beast immediately said, "But these fruits were personally plucked by young master. Sir Cole is only helping young master to deliver them. Great messenger, please don't waste young master's filial piety." Gu Mengmeng paused and turned to look at the stray beast. Seeing that he was stuttering from the very beginning, this sentence came out so smoothly. Someone must have taught him, right? Young master. Gu Mengmeng did not bother about who had taught him to say that sentence, because she did not need to ask to know, and she did not want to hear that name again. Chapter 1083. Gu Mengmeng squatted beside the few big basins of grapes and reached out to pinch one before sending it into her mouth. Elvis snatched the grape away from Gu Mengmeng's lips and with a nimble tongue, he sent the grape into his mouth. After chewing for a while, he said, "The taste is very mild, but it was indeed plucked by Qi Xian. But since it was sent by Cole's men, I have to be on guard. You can only eat it if I am fine before nightfall, understand?" Gu Mengmeng said helplessly, "Have you forgotten that I have snake's poison in my body? In the entire beast world, I am the most poisonous person. Other poisons cannot harm me at all. Even if there is poison, it will be neutralized by snake's poison." Elvis tapped Gu Mengmeng's little nose and said, "If you have nothing to fear, be careful of being taken advantage of. Leah and I cannot afford to take any risks." Gu Mengmeng was helpless and had no other choice. These two people were overly protective of her and could not bear to see any harm befall on her. And she rather enjoyed this protection, so she did not say much and just asked Elvis to put her down before asking him and Leah to carry the grapes into the cave. Gu Mengmeng was not fully awake, and now that the annoying fellows were gone, she naturally returned to the cave to catch up on her sleep. She slept all the way until the afternoon. Leo was afraid that she was hungry and entered the cave after cooking. He laid beside Gu Mengmeng and used his furry large tail to lightly brush her arm. His gentle gaze landed on Gu Mengmeng's defenseless little face, and he could not help but peck her lightly. He called out gently beside her ear, "Mengmeng, I am so bored. Don't sleep, open your eyes and look at me, mmm. Mmm." Gu Mengmeng hummed and instinctively hugged Li's tail, turning around and burrowing into Li's arms. Li's arms were filled by Gu Mengmeng and his heart was also filled to the brim. His voice unconsciously became softer and softer, like a gentle breeze blowing past. His slender and bony hands were in Gu Mengmeng's hair. Her silky hair was as smooth as black silk, coiling around his fingers gently. "All right, I'll hug you until you want to get up." Kissing the top of her head, Leah chuckled. "I really don't know what to do with you." She did not know if it was because Li's gaze was too hot or because Gu Mengmeng had had enough sleep, but after a while, Gu Mengmeng raised her head and gave him a sweet smile even before she opened her eyes. Her voice was a little hoarse and carried the unique tenderness of a morning. It was just one word, but it moved the corners of Li's lips. He pinched Gu Mengmeng's little nose and said, "I was afraid that you would be hungry and hoped that you would wake up earlier. I also yearned for your dependence and wanted you to sleep a little longer in my arms. I really don't know what to do with you." Gu Mengmeng smiled as she buried her face into Li's chest and rubbed against it. "Yeah, I'm really hungry." Leah carried Gu Mengmeng up from the bed and carried her out of the cave. As he walked, he said, "The food has already been prepared, just waiting for you to wake up." Gu Mengmeng was still hugging Li's tail in her arms. After waking up, she was like an angel, radiating a bright and gentle light. She was the complete opposite of the little demon she was in the morning. Gu Mengmeng clicked her tongue in disdain and said, all right, you can just maintain this defiled look and stay there. It's up to you." Wabiai's temples throbbed. What did she mean by defiled? Why does it sound so awkward? He glared at Gu Mengmeng and said, "What exactly do you want me to do? Say it quickly." Chapter 1085. Wabiai's face was filled with disdain, but he didn't reject. He glanced at Elvis and said, "Go bring the grapes out." Elvis directly ignored Wabiai's words. Xiao Meng wanted to bring the grapes to the stream, he was just doing it for her. There were a total of 9 large stone basins, each filled with grapes. Elvis and Leah took 3 trips to bring out all the stone basins. Barit, Oratin and Wabi each carried 2 large stone basins towards the stream. When they reached the stream, Fei Rui was also there. He waved at Gu Mengmeng when he saw her from afar, shouting excitedly, "Great messenger." Fei Rui's eyes were really clean, just like those of an innocent puppy. They shone with the purest brightness, making one want to smile at him. When it came to playing with water, no one could compare to Fei Rui. Once he heard that Gu Mengmeng wanted to wash the grapes, Fei Rui volunteered to handle the part in the water. He got Elvis to pour the 9 large basins of grapes into a more spacious area in the stream. Then, he gently shook his cheeks, causing the fish in the stream to form a wall downstream, ensuring that not a single grape would be carried away by the current. Then, he transformed into his half-beast form and started swimming in circles. The small fish that had been blocking the way downstream also joined in under Fei Rui's command. One of them swam clockwise in the inner circle, while the other swam anti-clockwise in the middle. Fei Rui swam clockwise in the outermost circle. The grapes danced back and forth in the 3 layers of water, as if they were little fairies that had fallen to the mortal world. Gu Mengmeng clicked her tongue in wonder as she watched from the shore. Damn, a primitive version of a washing machine. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances before saying, "The surface of the water is going to freeze in winter. When do you intend to let him return to the sea?" Lee's arm naturally rested on Elvis's shoulder, his long and narrow eyes sparkling with tears. "Or, do you want to keep him to make fish fillets in vinegar sauce?" Gu Mengmeng held her forehead. Back in Zacharias, she had told Dora that Fei Rui was the cause of her male's trouble. The 2 of them still remembered it clearly. Not long after, Fei Rui walked out of the water and transformed a pair of legs at the same time. He allowed the water to slowly drip down his body. He didn't feel that it was inappropriate at all. After all, he was a fish. The grapes seemed to have been given life, jumping into the stone basin one by one. The surface of the grapes reflected the sunlight and the water, looking extremely sparkling. Before Gu Mengmeng could even thank Fei Rui, she jumped down from Elvis's arms and grabbed Wabi before throwing him into the water. Wabi was caught off guard and looked at Gu Mengmeng in confusion. "What are you doing?" Gu Mengmeng stood by the shore and rubbed her hands. "Do you want to wash yourself or do you want me to help you?" Cole crossed his arms again and stared at Gu Mengmeng with a guarded look. "Are you a freaking pervert?" Gu Mengmeng jumped into the water and gave him another kick, sending Wabi into the deepest part of the water. "Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and wash up to help me grind the grapes." Chapter 1086. Wabi looked at Gu Mengmeng as if she was an idiot. "Are you out of your mind? This basin is so small. How can I enter?" Gu Mengmeng tilted her head. "Just reveal your snake tail and roll around like how Fei Rui did in the water just now. Crush these grapes into pulp for me." Wabi rolled his eyes at Gu Mengmeng before retreating into the stream. He reverted to his original form and coiled there. His body, which was as thick as a train, appeared in front of Gu Mengmeng. He said in snake language, "If you are not blind, look for yourself. Can I even enter?" Gu Mengmeng looked at Wabi, then at the stone basin. This stone basin was so big that it could be used as a bathtub for her. But compared to Wabi's original form, it was just like the cap of a mineral water bottle. If she wanted Wabi to enter, it would really be difficult. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips. "Little shit, you should lose some weight." Wabi didn't even have the mood to strangle her to death. Anyway, it was not the first or second day that she had been causing a ruckus. He reverted to his human form. "Just crush them into pulp, right?" Gu Mengmeng nodded. Then, Wabi stuck out his tongue impatiently at a spot not far away. Then, over a dozen little snakes as thick as an arm slithered out from the bushes. They didn't come to Gu Mengmeng. Instead, they entered the stream and swam for a long time, as if they were bathing. Then, Wabi placed one of the stone basins by the stream. The little snakes directly jumped out of the water and landed accurately in the basin. Then, they squirmed around in the basin, causing the grapes to bulge visibly. Then, they slowly sank into the basin. Finally, Gu Meng Meng saw a little snake rolling around in the basin, crushing every single grape into pulp. Not to mention the whole grape, even the grape seeds could not be seen. Using the same method, the 9 large basins of grapes soon turned into 9 basins of fruit puree. After the little snakes completed their mission, they swam out of the basin, washed their bodies in the stream, and then returned to the bushes as if nothing had happened. While the little snake was crushing the grapes, Gu Meng Meng had already asked someone to fetch the beast skin and beast tendon. She asked Elvis to scrape a groove on the side of the stone basin, then used the beast skin to cover the stone basin tightly and used the beast tendon to secure it. This kind of sealing effect was definitely not very good, but there was no place to buy sealed cans here, so they could only do this for the time being. She got Oritin and Barit to carry the 9 pots back to Elvis's cave, while Gu Meng Meng brought her partner and Wabi into the forest. After wandering around aimlessly for a long time, Gu Meng Meng set her sights on a towering ancient tree. Such a tree would definitely be priceless in the modern world, but it was not something rare in the beast world. Actually, it was quite a pity to chop it down, but Gu Meng Meng wanted to use it now and there was no better choice. So, she pointed at the tree and said, "Hubby, I want this tree. Just cut it from here and leave a stump. We can use it as a table the next time we come." Elvis had helped Gu Meng Meng cut the bamboo previously, and was now considered a skilled worker. He cut wherever Gu Meng Meng pointed at, without any deviation. Chapter 1087. As for the fact that Gu Meng Meng kept calling him little shit, he had resisted it at the start, then it became a shadow in his heart, and now he had gotten used to it. A person's ability to accept was really very strong. Sometimes, Wabi would think that now that he heard Gu Meng Meng call him Wabi, he felt strangely nervous and guilty, as if he had been caught doing something extremely bad. The snake tail coiled around the trunk of the tree as it followed Gu Meng Meng back. A 5th-level snake beast was a godlike figure no matter where he was placed, but he just had to be a porter for this little girl. But he just felt that it was not as comfortable as Gu Meng Meng ordering him around when others were serving him. TSK, a natural slave. Wabi cursed himself in his heart as he dragged the tree back for Gu Meng Meng. Gu Meng Meng drew with her pen that the tree trunk should be cut into several sections at waist height. Then, she asked Leah to cut off a piece as thick as a finger from each section. Then, she hollowed out the rest of the tribe to make a wooden barrel. She then cut off a piece to make a lid and used beast skin to wrap the lid to achieve a sealing effect. But the newly made wooden barrel could not be used directly, after all, the smell was too strong. So he asked Barit and Oritin to take it to the stream for Fei Rue to wash it again, before placing it in the shade to dry. Leah used the wood from the wooden barrel to make various types of cutlery, maximizing the use to avoid wastage. Although there were many trees in the beast world, Gu Meng Meng said that environmental protection is very important, so they tried not to cut down too many trees. If they really needed to cut down a tree, they had to make full use of it and not waste it. So Leah piled up the leftover pieces of cutlery at the side, to be used as firewood during winter. By the time everything was sorted out, the sky had already darkened. Oritin never missed mealtimes, so he carried his prey back early and stared at Leah eagerly. If Gu Meng Meng had not seen the word food clearly written in his eyes, she would have fantasized that Oritin had ulterior motives towards Leah. Barit seemed to have moved to a place near Elvis's cave. It was not in Elvis's territory, but close to it, so he followed Oritin here. Ian and Fei Rue were the last to arrive. Both of them looked as if they had something on their minds and wanted to say something. Gu Meng Meng ignored Ian and instead tugged at Fei Rue to show some concern. "What's wrong? Do you have something to tell me?" Fei Rui's big eyes were clear and clean. Every time they looked into each other's eyes, he felt like he was in the vast galaxy, sparkling and pure. Fei Rui bit his lip and nodded. Great messenger, I have to return to the sea. This was good news. After all, Leah had just threatened to turn Fei Rui into vinegar fish slices if he did not let Fei Rui go. Although it was a joke, Gu Mengmeng could understand that her nonsense in Zacharias had caused Elvis and Leah to have a knot in their hearts against Fei Rui. Originally, he was still thinking about how to not hurt this child's heart, but now that he took the initiative to bring it up, it was good. Fei Rui said, I won't be able to come out during winter when the water freezes. Although I don't lack food, I will still feel lonely alone. So I want to return to the sea to see my sister before winter arrives. I will come back during the rainy season next year. Is that okay? Chapter 1089. Gu Mengmeng nodded and chuckled. But Leah tooted. He has found a good reason to join Saint Nazir. This time, I can't do anything to him. Gu Mengmeng shook Lee's arm and looked up with a smile. All right, don't argue with a child. Leah pinched Gu Mengmeng's little face. He finally gave up. Then when do you intend to set off? Gu Mengmeng asked. Fei Rui smiled and replied, if the great emissary agrees, I will set off now. So soon. Gu Mengmeng was a little surprised. She thought he would set off tomorrow at the earliest. The sky was already dark. Fei Rui nodded. Anyway, I am going by water. It doesn't matter if there is no sun. Moreover, Melinda is pregnant. I want to hurry back to accompany her. After all, it is her first child. Melinda is pregnant. Gu Mingming's reaction was extreme. She immediately jumped up. Her eyes widened and the corners of her lips curled up uncontrollably. Leah pinched Gu Mingming's little nose. If Sandy sees your expression, she will definitely be jealous. Wabi chuckled. Those who don't know might think the child is yours. Get lost. Gu Mengmeng roared at Wabi. Then, she looked at Fei Rui. All right, hurry back. Help me send my regards to Melinda. Tell her I wish her and her child good health. Yeah, I will. Fei Rui nodded. Then, he tilted his head with a smile. Then, great messenger, please enjoy your meal. I will take my leave. Gu Mengmeng insisted on sending Fei Rui off. After all, they would be separated for an entire winter. Elvis and Wabi accompanied Gu Mengmeng to the well to send Fei Rui off. Leah stayed behind to watch over the pot. After watching Fei Rui jump into the well, Gu Mengmeng rested her head on Elvis's shoulder. Actually, he didn't wish for Dora to die. I saw it just now. He was very upset when he heard the news of Dora's death. Elvis tightened his grip around Gu Mingming's waist. Females are a precious resource to every tribe. No matter how weak Fei Rui is, he was once the leader of a tribe. Dora was also someone he valued before. Gu Mingming's eyes widened. After Elvis said that, Gu Mengmeng frowned. She sat up straight and looked at Elvis. So, before I came, Sandy and Maya were also people you valued? Elvis was stunned for half a second before he laughed. Are you kidding me? Before you came, Saint Zay was just a place for me to relieve my boredom. In other words, he didn't care about the tribe, let alone the females in the tribe. In the past, if it wasn't for Leah who kept persuading him not to kill females for the sake of the tribe, how would Nina survive till now? He would have died 800 times over. If a perfect female was like that, what about a half-beast female? Gu Mengmeng thought about it and agreed, so she chuckled and leaned back on his shoulder. Hubby, am I so petty? The thought of someone else being important to you makes me feel uncomfortable. I like how petty you are. You have to maintain it, understand? Elvis kissed the side of Gu Mengmeng's face. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and chuckled. She nodded in response. Wabi rolled his eyes at the side. You only know how to flaunt your love for each other all day long. TSK, the entire world is filled with the sour stench of love. Digression. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.